All right, we're back. It's been a minute. It's been a real light year for YouTube content. For those that don't know why, part of it is what you see behind me, which is the new shop. And this is officially the first video in the new shop. I'll get more into that and kind of what happened this season, what I got going on this winter, and what I'm looking at doing next year. But first, I want to hop right into what the main topic of this video is. And that is some issues that we're starting to have. Well, a issue that I'm starting to have with the MT82 in this car. So the issue that I'm experiencing with the car now happened after the last race. So when I have the clutch pedal out, so I guess clutch engaged with my foot off the clutch, there's a bunch of whining coming from the transmission. I believe it's probably the input shaft bearing that's what making all that noise. So kind of going back to a video I made 2 years ago, which was kind of, at the time, I thought a silly video and I didn't really enjoy doing it. It was about the transmission in this car and it was called the Unbreakable MT82. So one of the things I didn't mention in that video is what transmission fluid I'm running in this car. Well, this car still has the factory transmission fluid in it. I have not changed it. Is that a good thing? Probably not. At this point, I'm gonna change the fluid out and hopefully resolve that issue. The car now currently is a 2014, so I guess it would be technically, 12 years old. I've had the car for 10 years myself. So this fluid's pretty old in here. Now, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with this bearing or potentially this bearing going bad, but I figured at this point, it wouldn't be a bad idea to drain the fluid, take a look at it, see how much is in there, make sure the proper amount is. There's no leaks or anything, so it should be 2.7 quarts like they call for. It should be around that area. And another thing I guess I should mention is the kilometers on the car. So I'm gonna hop in the car in a minute. I'm gonna fire it up and see if I can get that sound on camera so you guys can kind of hear that whining coming from the transmission. So let's go take a look and see what kind of mileage is on it. All right, so we got 116,000 kilometers on the car. I'll convert that over to miles for the American followers, but I'm gonna fire it up and see if we can get it to replicate the sound that I'm hearing, the whining sound. Forgot I had this thing unhooked here. That's probably my issue. That sounds better. All right, I'm gonna let it warm up for a few minutes. All right, definitely was able to pick that up on the camera so you can hear there where when the clutch is out, whining like crazy, and when I put it in, disengage it, the whining goes away. So like I said, we're gonna change the transmission fluid. So this is what I'm gonna put into the car. This is the factory stuff. I think I read online in 2011, 12, there was like a manual transmission fluid that Ford used, and then they swapped it in 13 up over to this dual clutch transmission fluid. So just gonna put the factory stuff in. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, AMSOIL, BG, whatever, this and that. I'm more of a fan of the OE stuff, so that's why I'm gonna put this in it. Is this gonna fix our issue? I'm not sure, but might as well give it a go. Now it says that there's 2.7 quarts that are supposed to be in the car, so that's why I wanna do this too, is I wanna take a look at the fluid, show you guys the fluid that comes out of this thing, also measure it. So I got a bucket here that I'm gonna put the fluid in to see how much is in the car, to see if we lost any over the years. Maybe it's low on oil, which could possibly be an issue for that bearing going out. But I've also heard of people putting another 300 to 500 milliliters above that. So what you have to do, I guess, is pull the shifter out and pour it in through the top. My shop floor is on a bit of a slope, so I'm not going to mess around with that. I'm just going to put in whatever it takes. If it takes the full 3 liters, that'd be technically putting in another 300 to 500 milliliters. So if it takes it, we'll send it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna fill it to where it needs to be. And I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that. There's 100 videos on YouTube of how to change the fluid in this. I will film the fluid coming out. There we go. Try not to lose any of this fluid. Just let the plug drop in. There we go. And that is looking kind of nasty. Doesn't smell very good either. The magnet's looking pretty clean on it. That's a good sign. All right, now that I got it up here, you can get a better look, and it is definitely dirty as hell. And there's a super strong smell coming from it. I don't know if I'd call it a burnt smell, but definitely not a good smell. So what I did is I opened up one of the other bottles here of the new stuff to give it a smell. And it definitely does not have a smell like that to it. And it is, let me get the light on here. I don't know how well you can see. It's clear. The fluid in here is clear. It's got a little bit of a yellow tinge to it. I'm not sure if the camera will pick that up, but definitely doesn't look like what we took out. Now, from a volume perspective, we're sitting at about 2.5 quarts. So they say it holds like 2.7. I'm not too far off from, I guess, where it should be. Also, like I said, it's a little sloped in the shop here, so that might be why. Maybe we still got a little bit of fluid in there. But once we fill it with the other stuff, I'll be able to determine how much we end up putting in and let you guys know. That's definitely a better visual there of the color of the fluid that's going into it, the new stuff. All right, well, I thought there was going to be some fluid left over because it's only supposed to take 2.7 quarts, but it took the whole 3. So I guess it was down half a quart, judging on what it took. Could that potentially have been the issue to potentially take out what I believe to be the input shaft bearing? Maybe. One thing I am going to say though, from seeing the different fluids, the old shit to the new stuff, definitely go ahead and change your MT82 fluid if you haven't, especially if it's been 12 years. Kind of silly for me not to have changed it, but yeah, whatever. Can't go back in time, so it is what it is. So at least this is a little informative for you guys. Go change your fluid. Now I'm gonna wait till tomorrow to fire this thing up to see if the noise is still there. It's kind of late right now, so we'll catch you guys in the morning. All right, it's the next morning. We're back out here. Let's get this thing fired up and see if anything's changed. So I guess changing the fluid didn't change anything with that noise I got going on the transmission. So I guess it is what it is. We'll continue to drive it. Maybe it'll get better once we get some heat in it and get it out and get the thing moving. But at this point where I stand with this transmission is if it needs any kind of work and I got to pull it out, it ain't going back in. It's going T56 for sure if there's any issues with this car, or if it breaks down or I got to pull the transmission for any reason. I don't even want to mess around with the MT82. It's been a good transmission, don't get me wrong. I just feel like if I want to go to the next level, it's got to be a T56. So once this thing comes out, a T56 going in. So we'll just keep running it until it breaks. That's the plan. All right, so moving on, kind of to reflect on this year. We only got out to 2 races. We did not do much with the car. Didn't even really drive it much. Kind of spent a lot of the summer out at Bo's house. Big shout out to Bo for letting me keep it out there. But the main focus has been this shop. This shop build over the past year has been the priority. It's taken up a lot of my time. Didn't also want to add any stress to myself by having the car out and breaking it and dealing with this and just a whole bunch of screwing around. But this was long overdue, this shop. I needed a spot where I could work on the car, you know, anytime I'm not at work. It's just a lot more convenient. But I got to give a big shout out to Bo and my buddy Rick over the years because they've helped me out huge, letting me use their shops, their resources. So, you know, now finally I've got the spot where I can do my own stuff, pick away over the winter, which is huge too. Being in Canada here, it's super depressing for me because I don't do a ton of stuff in the winter. So a lot of the winters I just sit around, stare out the windows, waiting for the spring to hammer away on the car. And it was always a panic and a stress to throw everything together, kind of a month before bringing it out, sort of deal. But now over the winter, I'll get to pick away with it. All right, so what are the plans with the car? Well, I think for 2026, it's going to be a little light. Spent a ton of money on this shop. I've been telling a lot of people, basically this shop behind me could have made this car easily a 7-second car. I'm going to try to probably get out and do a bit of racing. I don't know how much. We are going to make a few changes to the car over the winter here. I got to do a ton of maintenance. I got to change the fuel filters, got to get the injectors cleaned and flow tested. You know, a lot of that stuff has been on the car now for a few years and I haven't touched it. So I want to get caught up with all the maintenance of all that sort of stuff on the car. I do have a couple things I bought for the car recently that we're going to get started on. I've kind of made the decision of what I'm going to do with this car long term. I want to keep it as a street car, obviously. Play within my means. That's the other thing too. You can get carried away. I could spend all sorts of money, but I really do enjoy the car and what I do with it. I obviously would like it to be faster. The tough thing these days is, especially with some of this heads up, no prep stuff, the car is just not competitive anymore. And that's all right. That's fine. You know, I'm not willing to go down that road and gut it and do all that sort of stuff. And, you know, to me, like I said, I enjoy it kind of the way it is. Pick away at it, make it a little bit quicker, but also enjoy it on the street. So I think long term, I'm still excited to get into some drag and drive stuff. I really got to get the car set up for that. So I think that's going to be the focus. And what I like about the drag and drive is that you get to drive the car on the street, so put a ton of miles on, cruising from track to track. You get multiple passes at the track as well. That's super appealing to me because, you know, you go to some of these events, you know, like last year and this year going down to Caches of the Hill. Yeah, it was a great experience, but to drive all the way there, to drive 660 feet and be out first round is actually, you know, is really nuts. It doesn't make much sense. And sure, it was fun, but, you know, if I could go to an event and drive it on the street, go from track to track, make multiple passes as long as the car stays together, it just makes a lot more sense in my mind than to be driving thousands of kilometers to be out first round. So over the years, I've contemplated moving this car over to turbo. It will always stay stick shift. That's not going to change. But I have decided 110% I'm going to stick with the TVS blower stuff, especially for a street car. It's all there on the head. You're not worried about building boost. And then just reliability. I just feel like a TVS supercharger like this is way more reliable than having multiple turbos and all the plumbing and all the components that come with that. So we're going to keep it super simple and continue on with the TVS. Now, in saying that, if I want to go faster and keep moving forward with this platform, you know, everything's sort of getting kind of topped out, like the fuel system, cooling, blower, sort of everything. So what my plan is right now is to start upgrading some of those things so it's ready for when we do go to push more boost through it, or we do go to put a, you know, a long block in it or something, put a built motor in it. Just want to start updating all the supporting mods around that, you know, rather than doing it the other way around, getting a bigger blower, different pulleys, belt motor, all that sort of stuff, and then having to worry about all the odds and ends around it to keep everything moving. So we're gonna focus on some maintenance here. Gonna start upgrading some things around, more boost and more power, which I'll show you the two mods I got coming up right now. All right, so here's the first change we're gonna make. I just picked up this VMP ice tank. That's gonna go in the trunk of the car. We need to work on getting the IATs lowered in it. It doesn't do too bad right now with the boost that it's making, around 15 pounds of boost, but it still has all the stock lower manifold, just 3/4 inch lines. This reservoir, it's just the stock reservoir that comes with the kit. And we also have the heat exchange that came with the kit. Now this is a single core unit, I believe. This is all the stuff that came with the 2015 plus Roush kit. This is the newer Roush kit. I think there was some things they needed to modify to put it on the car. I didn't put it on the car. I had a company put it on locally here, but I think they had to make up some brackets and whatnot, like you see here, to get this heat exchanger in. So the IATs have not been terrible with this setup, with the boost that it's making right now. As we turn that up, more boost is going to make more heat. So we're going to have to deal with IAT issues, I'm sure, as we upgrade things. Also, it's not bad to have, you know, some better cooling in the car as it sits. So I'm going to start removing all this stuff, remove this reservoir here. I'm going to keep this heat exchanger for now. Eventually, I'd like to upgrade it to the Department of Boost Titanic, they call it, which is like a big triple pass unit. But for the time being, we're gonna run this Roush intercooler. I think with the ice and the bigger lines, it's really gonna help, and a bigger pump, because we're gonna have to put a bigger pump on this as well, because it just has the Bosch pump here, which is just a little guy. We're gonna put a C-Max pump on the new setup in the trunk. So gonna remove the pump, gonna remove the reservoir, gonna remove all the lines, all the components for everything that's running here. All right, so I've set the tank up in the trunk so you guys can kind of get an idea of how it sits in there. The nice thing with this kit, it comes with brackets for that C-Max pump that I'm gonna use. So I gotta order that up. I've ordered the hose up, like I said. Gonna run 1-inch lines everywhere, even though it does bottleneck down to 3/4 up on the heat exchanger and intercooler. Hopefully down the road we can update those to all 1-inch, so then the whole system will be 1-inch. So we're gonna have to get this mounted up in the trunk. We're gonna have to plumb all the lines, wire everything. But yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown on what we're doing with that. A couple things I do need to look into. I'm not sure if the feed should be on the top here or the bottom port. I think with Whipples, I think they want you putting the cold water in the top, and then the warm water will end up coming out the bottom. Not too sure how this whole Roush deal is plumbed. It almost looks like it feeds in the bottom, returns on the top into this tank, and then back down to the pump here, which would push back up. So I might want to reroute some of that. So the more I started looking at the routing here, this actually, the pump runs up across and into the bottom of this. So it looks like it's actually feeding the coolant, which is coolant now, it'll be water when we move to the trunk setup. But it's feeding in here and then up through here, through the top, and then the warm water after it goes through the intercoolers, running off the bottom, all the way down here and into the top of the heat exchanger. So the way I think I'm gonna plumb it is obviously directly from the pump in the trunk. We'll need to go in here so we get that cold water in the intercooler first. Now I just need to determine if it's the top or the bottom where we're gonna want that cold water going in. So anyone watching here, if anyone knows, let me know, top or bottom port for the cold water. And then obviously as the warm water comes out the bottom of the intercooler or top, whatever way I need to arrange that. Have that run down into the top port of the heat exchanger to run through there, and then out the bottom, which is here, and back to the tank in the trunk. All right, so one thing I wanted to mention, the more I looked at this and thought about this is a terrible setup that they've got, if this is plumbed correctly. But like I said, the pump water before going to the intercooler is coming in the bottom of this. So as you can see, it's bubbling like crazy, causing a whole bunch of aeration. Now, from my research, I understand that's no good. You don't want that. I know with that VMP tank, the way it's designed to limit that. But yeah, the more I look at this is a terrible setup, because basically it's putting a bunch of air in the coolant water, as you can see there. And then like, how well is it actually flowing into, maybe not too bad, but that's definitely not efficient. I'm actually surprised I haven't had any MT82 issues. You know, I think the highest I usually see on a pole, even in the summer when it's warm out, like it might get into the 130, 135. So it hasn't been too bad, but definitely this new setup should definitely be a lot more efficient than what's happening here. All right, moving on to the second change we're gonna make. We're gonna be putting in this Motion Raceworks catch can. I really liked everything that they put into this design with the baffling and everything in it. I think it's a super good unit. I was looking at this, or the Fab House unit. The Fab House unit was super nice too for the car, but kind of where it sits, which I'll show you once we get over to the car, I just don't think it was going to work with the way I want to route everything under the hood of the car. But yeah, super nice looking unit. Comes with all the fittings, comes with the line there too. They did kind of shaft me here. They sent me 3 straights and 1 90. I need 2 90s because the 90s come off the top of the valve covers. So I had to order up a couple off Amazon there, which I'm not too worried about the quality necessarily, because nothing about this is high pressure. It's just, you know, it's just moving any kind of crankcase blow by or a little bit of oil through. So it's not going to be an issue there. But the car does have a catch can on it now. It's got this JLT unit, which has worked decent, but I know as you make more power and the power level that the car is at now, it is good to vent everything coming out of the crankcase. Currently it all runs, you know, back into here. It's done a really good job. I've had this blower off a couple times, so it does catch any of the oil. So this JLT unit has been a good unit, and I don't often have much that I have to pour out of this. You know, there might be, you know, a quarter or an eighth of it filled between oil changes, which is not terrible, so we don't have any issues there. But like I said, with the kind of power the car is making, and it will make long term, the Motion catch can is definitely gonna, you know, fulfill all my needs for crankcase ventilation as we move forward. Now my plan was to mount it over here. So that Fab House unit that they make, it kind of fills this whole section in right here, which I didn't like because that's kind of where I'm running all my power from. I'm gonna change this. I'm going to reroute all the wiring, and I want to go with some thicker gauge wiring. This is not pretty, so I am going to update that. But I did bring the catch can up here thinking that maybe I can mount it here, but it's too tall for here. I could put it here, but then I got to relocate everything with this, and I just don't want to touch that. Everything's been good with that there. So don't fix what's not broke. So I know if I start moving around, then I'll probably run into issues. I did some searching around the engine bay, trying to think of places to mount it, and I did kind of want to have it, you know, showing it's a nice pretty unit, but I think where I'm going to end up putting it is going to be down here where this pump is. Now I'm going to mount it to the frame rail here. So you will not see it, which is, like I said, kind of disappointing because it is a nice looking unit. But functionality wise, it's going to be good here because I don't run any of the plastic underneath the bumper. So it's super easy to get to drain. Put a drain pan under there and drain it. The nice thing with that too is when you get into the vent to atmosphere catch cans, they will let off more smell, obviously, because all that crankcase fumes and everything will be coming out the filter on the catch can. So I think down there will be a better fit too, especially for a street car. Less chance of getting those fumes up into the cab of the car, whereas if I had it here, I'll probably end up getting a lot more fumes into the car, which we want to limit that, especially if we're doing a lot of street driving with the car. Now, one thing on changing this, I was looking at this the other day. So when I pull this catch can off, there's also a line that runs to the back of the motor here. I tried to get down to locate where it's at, and I think it was plumbed into the lower intake manifold intercooler brick there below the supercharger. So I actually had this off, as you noticed earlier in the video when I first started the car, and it was running like a bag of shit. So I definitely need to sort something out for this. I think it needs some kind of vacuum, obviously, with it being plugged into here. It's receiving some sort of vacuum to keep things running smoothly. Like I said, I'm not too sure 100%. So if anyone knows technically what this guy is for and what it runs to and where to plumb it to, I was thinking maybe if I just extend it and run it up into there. So if I run this directly from here to there, maybe that's fine. Not sure if anyone's gone through this, and if you have and you know what I should be doing or where I should be plumbing it to, or if I could just cap it off, just comment down below to help me out. All right, so that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I'm going to try to get you guys a bit more content here now. Obviously with the shop, it's going to really help me create more content. So I'm going to get working on installing all this stuff. I'm going to make some video of that. So I'll have another video that'll come out here shortly with the updates and how I'm plumbing everything and running everything. So if anyone gets into any of these products in the future, they can kind of see the way I did it and kind of how it worked out for me. So I did mention earlier that I did do 2 races this season. I did get the Cash Days at the Hill video uploaded. I have not got the second race uploaded yet. So that was at King of the North at TMP, Cayuga, Toronto Motorsports Park. I haven't started editing that. I've just been so busy with everything else, but I am going to edit that when I get some downtime. So stay tuned for that. That will be up on the channel eventually. But yeah, that's going to wrap this video up, and we'll see everyone on the next one.